you guys know I'm very passionate about the game. I love it.
Yes.
A super fan. So it's surreal for you two, literally legends and people that I have looked up to wish me luck and to say that they're proud of me. Like, what? Oh my gosh.
No.
But beyond that, we want you to give us your insight on this current season because, oh my, it's been a wild one. And I don't even really know where to begin other than Thursday night, we realized things are a mess in the Big Brother house.
Yes. Whatever you guys want to talk about, the challenge, Big Brother, snake in the grass. If you're allowed to share some things with me, I would love to hear about it.
Yes,
well, and
yes,
you're
yes.
applying to medical school. That's like more important than all of this. I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think it's more important, but but yes, I am applying to med school right now. I'm applying to 27 schools, so I've been very busy. Yeah, filling out like several applications. Yeah. But 3 of the ones that I'm applying to are in Washington, D.C. And honestly, I could see myself in D.C., NYC, staying in L.A., moving back home to Chicago or Atlanta. So I have a feeling I'm going to end up at one of those places next year.
Yeah. How exciting. Congratulations. I know this sounds silly saying, but we're so proud of you. But I mean, it really is such a big accomplishment. I'm sure you're so proud of yourself. Your family's proud of you, but it is so amazing to watch someone, that you get to know and on TV a little bit. And then I've known you outside of TV and just to see all the successes that you're having and all these accomplishments. And medical school is so hard. It's just, Brendan, he does a lot of things with people going into medical school because he helps write recommendations or he'll give them, I know you have like so many hours you have to do. And so Brendan's always telling me, he's like, these kids work so hard to get into medical programs. And it's such an honor and like such an accomplishment. And so I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, we are. Congratulations, Hannah. And we,
oh my gosh,
we know big things are on the way for your future. And whenever you've been on, everyone always talks about that. They're like, I'm so impressed with Hannah, that the way you analyze the game. They also love your smarts, and just like what you were doing at your age. This was the summer 20 years ago. I was in the Big Brother house. We were just talking about that summer of 2002. Yeah. And here we are 20 years later. I don't even want to know how itty bitty you were then.
When you were on Big Brother, I was 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I had just turned 2. And then when Rachel was on Big Brother the first time, I had just turned 11.
Oh my
but it's so surreal for me because you guys know I'm very passionate about the game. I love it. A super fan. So it's surreal for you two, literally legends and people that I have looked up to wish me luck and to say that they're proud of me. Like, what? Oh my gosh.
No.
But beyond that, we want you to give us your insight on this current season because, oh my, it's been a wild one. And I don't even really know where to begin other than Thursday night, we realized things are a mess in the Big Brother house.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's begin. Well, first of all, how are you guys feeling about like the preseason? Because the cast dropped literally 24 hours before they moved into the house. So I almost feel like we weren't given enough time to connect with the cast and really get excited for the season to start. Is that how you guys were feeling too?
100%.
Oh yeah. It's always nice to know in advance. Mm-hmm. Don't you think, Rachel, that you can see these players and get to know a little bit about their bios? And obviously there's web sleuthing to do.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But also I really enjoy reading the bios and I really enjoy watching their interviews and listening to them before they go into the house to learn about like their preseasons and what they're what they kind of expect from the Big Brother game. And also we had such a crazy preseason because we lost a player and then we got a new player and we didn't even get to know Joseph before he moved in. I mean, it was like literally 10 minutes and they were like, here's a new guy.
Yeah. We got that tweet. This is what it was. It was like, we're changing it out. Somebody's not going to be there. Marvin's no longer there. We're going to bring in Joseph.
I thought that was an incorrect BB update. You know those accounts that like troll?
Yes.
Well, I really thought it was like an incorrect BB update until maybe like 3 hours before they moved to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so wild. Also, they only did one interview, I believe, with Sharon Tharp on Us Weekly. So I felt like I wasn't given enough insight into how they intended to play the game, into who their favorite players were. And I must say, I was really disappointed in their answers because for our season, you had such a variety of favorite players. You had people saying, you had people citing duos like Danielle, sorry, not Daniel, Danielle and Jason. You had people citing duos like Rachel and Brendan and Paul and Victor and Derek and Cody and Vanessa and this person. And I felt like we were pretty varied in our answers, and we did a good job of being like across the board or just falling across the board. But with this season, all of them said Derek and Cody and Xavier, and I think a few people said Tiff, as they should, and a few people said Janelle, as they should. But I just felt like we've had so many good players, and all 16 of you have the same 3 favorite players, which I'm not going to knock them, but I just felt like they could have given us more of a variety, and that kind of told me, okay, you guys watched 16, 20, 23, noted.
Yeah. So,
and maybe that's all they did watch. And maybe it was a bunch of people that were recruited. But you would think with like Michael and Daniel, that both saying that they're super fans, and even Taylor told us she was a fan. Mm-hmm. So I would have expected different answers even from them. But then I was thinking, I wonder if they're answering based on super fan Twitter answers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness here, Taylor did talk about Danielle. I was not mentioned in that. I'm joking around. I didn't take any offense to it, but she mentioned Danielle, who honestly was the architect of what we did on season 3 of Big Brother back in the summer of 2002. I just can't believe that we're that far removed here. Season 24 of Big Brother is happening, and any standouts, Hannah, Rachel, that you're seeing emerging from this season? I know it's still so early, and the game just kind of got turned upside down with a twist, and then a really big thing that happened here in the last few days. What do you think, Hannah, so far about any of these players?
Okay, good question. So Michael, he was my winner pick from the jump because he's a super fan, and he has a very like nerdy, unassuming appearance, and he's engaged. So I felt like people would feel safe and comfortable around him.
And Hannah, I'm going to jump in here while you bring in the nerdy vibe. Like, I feel like, and we realized that the second he walked into the house, it's like, here's a little nerdy thing here. I love Stranger Things. It's like I hear Kate Bush running up that hill playing because this guy is, he is like, everyone is out to get him, and his game is going down. He's running up that hill. Like, how long can he do that? Can he sustain this the whole summer long?
Absolutely. I think, okay, so he instantly reminds me of Kevin Jacobs from BB Can 10, the winner, who was also put on the block in the first week, and then Steve Moses, who again was put on the block in the first week. And with people who are nerdy and a bit more socially awkward, no offense, Michael, because I am also very socially awkward, being put on the block in week 1 kind of forces you to take that initiative to start talking game with people. And they're kind of obligated to talk game with you because you're on the block. You have to campaign and pitch to save yourself. So I feel like with players such as Michael, it was a blessing for him to be put on the block in week 1. And I sort of think that he seems like he's the type of person who will be able to not let his super fandom get to him, like Frenchie let his super fandom get to him. And I feel like he'll be able to fall back and kind of lay low until the very end. He kind of reminds me of Ian in that regard as well.
Okay. Yeah. I like some of those mentions of Steve, Ian. Yeah. You're right. That can be the inspiration maybe that he needs to figure a couple of things out here instead of just trying to lay low. Rachel, who's standing out in gameplay right now for you this season?
Yeah. So, it's funny. I said that I really like Michael as well. And I think that with him being a super fan, that I think it's going to be fun to watch him and Daniel kind of super fan it out. Because they've mentioned it on the show twice that they're like going to go after each other. So I'm kind of liking that little rivalry. It seems like a fun little rivalry. And then I also really love Taylor. She's one of my favorite characters. I think she is just beautiful. We saw like, oh, did I lose you guys? Am I okay? Good. Sorry. We saw her last night on the show competing a little bit more. I think she's just a ray of sunshine. Like, she's the type of person I would love to be friends with in the house. And then I think Nicole, for me, I'm wondering if Nicole is going to just really take it to the end. And I could see Nicole, I predicted her as my early pick based off of the first episode, because I felt like she was making relationships with everybody, but not threatening, because she's not in that, well, the No More Girls Girl Alliance, but she was never in that Girls Girl Alliance. And then, but she was also with the girls because they wanted to always talk to her. They never talked, like, they've never really mentioned her. And then like the guys don't really mention her. So I kind of felt like maybe Nicole will take it to the end. And I could see her in one of those, I honestly could see her in one of those final two chairs. Cause I think if there's the Daniel Michael rivalry, and then there's like all these other people already going after each other, Nicole's not really being mentioned. So I'm wondering if she'll be able to kind of just go through. I don't want her to float. Don't want her to float, but she could be one of those people that like just makes it to the final two. I don't know. We'll see. You never know what happens.
I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Do you like the alignment that Nicole made with our current head of household, Daniel?
I like it. I like that. I thought that was smart for her. And then I also think, as a gamer, keeping that friendship with him the rest of the season could be really beneficial for her, especially if Daniel's not going to be a target. Now, if he becomes this huge target that everyone wants to get out, she's going to have to distance herself from him. But I think it's this, first week, if you could become best friends with that HOH, yes, that's goals right there.
Absolutely. And another thing about being in that house is, yes, you are playing your individual game, but as you guys know, it's always beneficial to find that ride or die someone who you can share a majority of your strategy with and your game talks with, for your own sanity, like for your mental and emotional stability and sanity in that house. It helps to have that sounding board who you can trust as much as you possibly can in the game of Big Brother. Rachel had Brendan, Jason had Danielle, I had Tiffany, and a couple other people, but
you always do. I feel like need that one person that you really can confide in.
Exactly. For the sake of your game, but also just so you don't go crazy in that house, because it can be exhausting and draining having to keep in everything. So I'm glad that she was able to find that person in the first HOH. But what scares me about that partnership is I personally feel like Daniel was not brought in to many alliances, and like the one alliance that he was brought into, the Oasis, between 6 of the guys, they kind of made it clear that he was like their last minute addition, like their very last addition. So with that being said, that should tell you that he's the most expendable to them. And he
to the guys.
Yeah. And I felt like he didn't set up any power structures, which revolve around him. And all 3 of his nominees are still in the house. So his HOH week might even be less successful than Frenchie's, dare I say. I wish he would have done more, but I see Nicole and Daniel writing it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe I was thinking maybe
go ahead,
it's
Rachel.
good he didn't. Sorry, Jason. I was just going to say, I think maybe to Hannah's point, it was good. It's really hard when your 3 nominees are still in the house, but maybe it's good that he didn't make those power structures, because his 3 nominees are in the house, it makes him less threatening. And if he is the last one on their guys totem pole, then he's still in it. They're not going to nominate him, but he doesn't have to worry about being loyal to them, because he can always say, I was the last one. So he's not really like stabbing them in the back. It's a weird, when you have so many people in an alliance, it's a weird like power structure, right? So I thought that might have been smart of him. Especially because he has Nicole, and that's his like number 1. So I don't know. His HOH the whole week was so messy. So depending on how this week goes, I think we'll see if the mess will be totally forgotten about, or if the mess is going to keep going on. You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
We also know that they're hair twins. This Daniel and Nicole alliance. And Hannah was just, before we started with the podcast here, Rachel, showing us how true that is. Can you demonstrate this? This is a party trick, everybody.
Yes. Okay. So
my God, I love it.
this is Daniel.
Yeah.
No hair in the bag, just this one little swoop. Yeah. And it's literally the same color too. But the sad part is that like that's his finished product. I have to go back to get my hair toned. So like I'm acknowledging that this is just not the color for me. But Daniel seems so that right there tells me he makes questionable decisions.
And then you were saying Rachel's got the same hair though. I mean, Nicole's got the same hair. There,
Nicole
Hannah
does have the same hair.
But I like the gray streak, and I feel like her hair fits her vibe. It fits her aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's just that blonde, like that very brassy blonde that I don't like, that Daniel has. Yeah. I feel very passionately about his hair.
I really enjoy the memes that we've been seeing about his hair.
Yeah.
And this is all in good fun, Daniel. We're not making fun of you. We're
no.
You know.
Because
I'm not gonna lie, I am. Daniel, if you would like to talk after you get out of the house, by all means, you can hit me up on Instagram.
Well, I can say I made questionable hair and facial hair decisions in the Big Brother house. Yeah. I had that soul patch. Oh man, I still to this day, 20 years later, like that may have been my biggest BB3 regret.
No, soul patches are cool.
I love the soul patch.
I like soul patches.
No. It was 90s that was in style, and I was rocking it into the early 2000s. So I carried it on way past when it was still a trend. And then the week, I don't know if you guys remember, I tried this like other hairstyle, like I did it down, and even Julie Chen made fun of my hair. Like when Julie calls you out on live TV, like that's bad.
It was like past your eyebrows, right? Wasn't it
like I did this thing, and she was like, "Hey, the fans want to know if Greg Brady moved into the Big Brother house." No, Julie with the burn. Okay, God. let's get back to where we are in the game, and really, first week, everybody came in such high hopes. They were ready to play this game. They thought they were going to shine. We saw Daniel become the HOH. We saw Nicole quickly align with him, and then he nominated a couple of players. That didn't work because Michael pulled himself down in the veto. Then he put Taylor up, and there was a lot happening in the house. It really seemed like, am I right in saying that Paloma was behind kind of originating this? Do you feel that's where it all began?
Yes.
Paloma?
I do think that. Yeah. I think she was the originator. I think that people listened to her a lot, and maybe it was because she was the loudest voice. You know how sometimes that happens, especially when we're living in that house. If someone is constantly, it's always that mentality. I don't know if this happened on your season, but it was almost like, okay, well, if you don't want to evict me this week, or you don't want to come after me, wondering if it was her because she was the loudest voice. So that's what I personally noticed from the live feeds and from everything.
Were either of you surprised that Monty believed Paloma over Taylor when kind of this whole thing got discussed in the house?
I'm not surprised, but I was definitely disappointed because a common theme I think that we saw last week was people were willing to give everyone else, especially Paloma, the benefit of the doubt. But when it came to Taylor, they were so quick to assume or to believe something without even fact checking with her or just asking her and being like, hey, can you explain yourself here? Whereas they did that with other players like Paloma, or even we saw in the episode, Brittany confides in Pooch that Amira wants to go after him. Pooch automatically marches to Amira and asks, hey, is Brittany telling the truth here? Are you coming after me? Gives Amira the chance to explain herself. Then Amira goes back to Brittany and gives her the chance to explain herself. But I personally noticed that they never did that with Taylor. So because that was a theme that kind of dominated last week, and it seems like there was largely a personal vendetta against her. I am not surprised that Monty was super quick to jump on the Taylor's lying, Paloma's telling the truth. I need to do what I can to get Taylor out of this house. But it was disheartening. Just the events of last week were so wild, and also upsetting after such a historic season. But I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. I mean, we can dive into it now, or we can keep moving on. I mean, the thing that I think that is just so hard is really that pressure cooker of the Big Brother house. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's a slow start into the game, and it got going really fast. It seems like with the first nomination of, and I love Terrence and was so bummed to see Terrence and Michael up on the block, because I was saying, Taylor, Michael, those are my two. I tweeted that to Sharon with Us Weekly and was saying, I think these two, based on even just some of their answers and their super fandom, they can figure some things out and go farther. And so right away when Taylor started being targeted, I was like, oh no. And I couldn't figure out if it was the sort of looking at her as some of the women did and said, oh, she's in good with the guys, and the house sort of was going to be this girls guys thing, and it's like, oh, she's with the guys and they're going to be strong. I don't know what sort of began all of that, but it was a lot, and it was hard not to have your heart go out for Taylor, and then it really led to Paloma and just having kind of by the end of her game a meltdown. And the reason I'm talking about the end of the game is because she walked out because she was just dealing with really intense anxiety. And this house is a pressure cooker for everyone who goes in there, especially if you have some anxiety.
So I'm going to speak, which I don't think I've ever spoken on this before publicly, but I also struggle with that. And for the first 6 or 7 days in the Big Brother house, I did not sleep at all. So I really did, because again, I think Big Brother, it's not only a pressure cooker, but it kind of exaggerates all of your qualities and characteristics and personality traits. So if you're, if you're mildly emotional in your real life, you're going to be very emotional in the Big Brother house. If you're prone to having temper tantrums in real life, you're going to have a temper tantrum every day in that house. If you struggle with anxiety in your real life, it's going to be magnified in that house. So I too, and maybe it's an age thing as well. I don't want to say that her anxiety is attributed to her age, but she was the youngest house guest. I was the youngest house guest. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but it was very hard for me to sleep, and it was very hard for me to eat. And although I didn't, reach like a mental break, I cannot recall pretty much anything from week 1 of my season because I just blacked out throughout the whole week. And then by week 2, I started eating, I started sleeping, and I felt like myself again. But in that regard, I can empathize with Paloma because it's hard going into that house period, but also with you having, mental health issues that can be exacerbated in that environment. So I hope that, she can receive the help that she needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rachel, I mean, you've been on a reality show or two. Hannah, obviously your season of Big Brother, and I was on Big Brother. There are a lot of steps in the process to making it onto the show. And I feel like along the way, they knew of some of this, but maybe not to the extent of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wonder, we talked about this, like in casting, we go through background, we go through psych, we go through medical. So I think I wonder if it did come up, if it was maybe something where, because of the past 2 years with COVID and all the crazy stuff that's been going on, that people maybe they are not picking up on these things as much, because this doesn't happen. I don't think that we've had 2 walkouts, maybe, Jason, is that right? In the whole all of Big Brother?
I think there have been, I think there was another one, but yeah, it's very, very rare. Very rare. I'll do some internet research on that.
Yeah, it's not that that they don't pick up on this. And I think that there's a possibility that, it's a different experience. You can go through casting and you can say all the right things because we know what to say. You know what I mean? see people going through casting and I talk to them, they're saying all the right things because they know what to say. And then we coach them on what to say. And then we talk to them more, especially if it's someone we like, to, hey, when you're talking about this, make sure you talk about this, and someone that you think would be a good fit on the show. So I think it's hard because I don't think you don't really know how someone's going to act until they're actually in that house and in that situation with these other people. If it was a different cast, it might have even been totally different. You just never know. It's just one of those things that like they can never predict how people are going to act with this cast in this pressure cooker situation.
Yeah. And I'll go through the list. I just did a quick search, hiddenremote.com, if this is right. But according to them, over the 24 seasons, there have been 4 Big Brother house guests to self-evict. Neil on BB9, Dick on BB13, Megan from BB19, and then Paloma from this current season. Now, there have been expelled
I don't remember
house
Megan.
guests. Yeah. Yeah.
And Dick wasn't like, I don't think that was a choice.
Yeah. I don't know. According to how they put it here, but
right.
Yeah. So there was season 4, our second season, Justin was removed. Is that right? And then season 4, Scott. Yeah. And then Chima was season 11. And there was 14, Willie. Okay. Okay. So man, a great job here, hiddenremote.com. A quick Google search and getting all the facts. Yeah.
They have all the facts.
Yes.
But I don't remember. Do you guys remember Megan? I mean, is that totally slipped my mind? 19. Yeah. That wasn't even that long ago.
She had like silverish hair. Actually, it may have been colored, but I don't know. She was in the house for like 2-3 days, but remember everyone kind of ganged up on her and it showed her crying. So then she went into the DR and she left.
That's right. For some reason, I thought that she had been evicted, but I guess you're right. She did leave.
You're thinking of Jillian, and Jillian and Megan, they were like tight and they kind of looked alike. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I do remember. That's crazy. Okay. So I mean, you can never predict how people will react in the situations in this house. It's just, I don't think a psychologist.
That's Megan. I quick look. Do you remember her? There we go. That's Megan. Yes. I just pulling up on the laptop here. Okay.
I do remember her.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. And I think though, this goes to show, people will say from other shows that, Big Brother, it's so easy. They just goof around in a house for a couple of months. It's like a simple, easy summer. There's a lot that it takes as a toll on every contestant who goes into that house. It's a tough game. It really is. And a very tough game mentally. And so, and mental health right now, it is no joke. And, May was Mental Health Awareness Month. It's one of those things we talked a lot and tried to make a lot of awareness in the job that I do day in and day out as a TV news anchor here in Orlando. We've seen so much with young people taking their lives, and just everybody I think was kind of pushed to the max with their mental health through the pandemic and all the lockdowns at the beginning, and even just things that happened with social distancing and not being able to see loved ones for holidays and all of these things. And so it's just we get it, and we send out our love, and we hope good things for Paloma, for her mental health. And, and to say to anybody watching, listening to this, if you're struggling with that, there are people who can help, and there are no cost answers out there. I'll find some information and I'll post those links here on our YouTube channel, because we do want to help people out with that.
Yeah. They just changed the number for the suicide hotline to 988. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from your cell phone.
An 11-digit number, but now they changed it to like 988.
I think as of tomorrow, right? Starting tomorrow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Starting tomorrow. So if people are, having an issue or a breakdown or feeling like they need to talk to someone, it's totally free. And they just dialed 988, and it's a suicide prevention hotline.
And you'll be connected to a therapist who's trained in discussing mental health issues.
Yeah. 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 So that the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and that is 24 hours a day. So if that's you, 988, call right now. We'll also put some other links there. There's some other great resources out there that you take advantage of, and even some apps to help with levels of anxiety, just calming breathing and ways to center yourself and focus, and it's really helpful. And I am pro therapy. I think if you're dealing with something in life and you need to talk about it, and it was great even after Big Brother. I remember talking to people, and having that access that CBS gave us, saying I need to kind of decompress and figure out some things. And I do remember saying this going into the Big Brother house. I asked them, I said, is this like going to jail? And they said, the show's therapist said, no, because this is a choice you make and you control it. And so even if it gets terrible and overwhelming, you can walk out of that. And while they don't want that, this is, not what the producers want to see. This messed up all those big plans for a super twist here at the top of the season. But you do have that ability, and you can walk out of this game, and we wish those players the best, because they were dealing with something, and we want them to get to the place where they're healthy and feel good and thriving.
Yeah,
100%.
Okay.
And I know, Hannah, you and Tiffany just did a podcast, correct, about speaking to the stuff that's been going on with Taylor in the house as well, with, I believe, with the microaggressions and everything like that. Is that correct?
Yes, and Azza was part of it too. So it was the women of the Cookout.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, perfect. So where can we listen to that?
Oh yeah, so Tiffany has like her own segment on the Winner Circle, which is Derek and Cody's podcast, where she covers live feeds, the Challenge USA, and things that are happening in her personal life as well. So you can go to the Winner Circle YouTube channel, but you can also go to any of our social medias and you'll be able to find the podcast there.
Oh, perfect.
Awesome.
And can you kind of like briefly discuss that with us so that we can kind of understand? Because I feel like we can all learn from what you girls talked about. And I did get to watch it, and I thought it was so special what you were talking about and sharing this with us. And if you'll just kind of briefly go over that if you have time.
Of course. So, all three of us were able to offer something unique to that conversation. For example, Azza talked about colorism, which is basically the unfair treatment and discrimination towards dark-skinned Black women, as well as Black men. So just dark-skinned Black people, and the acknowledgement that light-skinned Black people benefit from their proximity to whiteness, if that makes sense. So someone like me, who's a light-skinned Black woman, would not experience colorism, versus someone like Azza. It's almost like racism compounded, because not only are you experiencing like inherent racism, but you're also experiencing colorism from within your own community. She struggles with that as well in her daily life. So I think what we're seeing in the Big Brother house right now, because there are 5 Black people, but there's only one dark-skinned Black person. The rest of them are mixed, or in Terrence's case, light-skinned. So they benefit from that privilege. It's interesting how the house guests, including the other Black house guests, keep referring to Taylor as scary, as aggressive, as angry, and those are microaggressions, because Paloma was actually exhibiting wacky behavior. No offense. It was evident that she was spiraling, and it was evident that she was being messy in her gameplay, and people were concerned for her safety, but not once did people call her scary, angry, aggressive, or anything like that. And the reason why you can't refer to Black people, especially to dark-skinned Black people, as those words is because oftentimes they aren't even, like, Taylor never once raised her voice in that house. Taylor has not been combative in that house, yet these people are assigning false terms to describe her behavior, which are microaggressive, and kind of play into stereotypes that have been historically inflicted on Black people for centuries and centuries, since slavery, since before civil rights. So that's kind of a brief history into microaggression, a brief history, or at least the best that I can do, the best way that I can explain about racism, about colorism. So shout out to Azza for speaking on that, because that's an issue that's often ignored in the Black community itself. And the cool part about the Cookout, right, is that not only were we able to get our alliance to the end, bravo, but you also got to see so many different facets of the Black community. All of us were different in shades. All of us were different in backgrounds. Me and Azza have African parents, whereas everyone else is Black American. You were able to see different personalities, different occupations, different levels of education. So it was just cool to be able to see that richness and that diversity reflected and shown to all of America. And because we aren't a monolith, our struggles are also not monolithic. And I think that's what Azza was getting at. So thank you to Azza for being able to shine light on that. And I guess walking into the Big Brother house, all three of us felt like we had to downplay our intelligence, like we had to lie about our occupation, because all three of us are educated, we're successful, we're ambitious. But oftentimes when people see a Black person who is those three things, it's almost like, wait a second, this is not what I've been conditioned to think about you. I didn't know this was possible. And if you're a walking red flag, people will fear you. And that fear and misunderstanding can turn into hatred. And that's kind of the manifestation that I believe we're seeing with Taylor now. You know, she came into that house confident. She came into that house beautiful, stunning. She's articulate. She's eloquent. She's intelligent. She's graceful. She's all these things. And I think to me, it almost seems like, no, you aren't allowed. And therefore, we're going to do what we can to tear you down. And there are so many factors that are involved with that. And seeing as though the six of us last summer were able to work so well together. And immediately I was like, I can learn from Tiff. I can learn from Azza. I look up to them as role models. It was never a matter of, let me tear them down because I believe that they're better than me. That's what all three of us were hoping for this summer. But unfortunately, that was not the case last week. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
No, it was tough to watch it. And the live feed showed way more than obviously we got on the network show. And I feel like even on the episodes, we didn't even scrape the surface on what was going on and how tough of a week it really was for Taylor in that house. Very tough.
Yeah, it broke my heart. It really broke my heart.
And you know, maybe this is one of those things that for her game in the Big Brother house, though, that doesn't hurt her. Hannah and Rachel, do you think that this is something where she's so shaken internally that she can't continue fighting? Like she walked in there as superfan Taylor, who's like, I know who I am and how I'm going to play this game, and then this messes with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, just from watching her, I know it did mess with her, but she seems to me to be the type of person that's going to shake it off and move forward and be stronger. And when we got to see her in that competition, I was screaming because it was like, she is a comp beast. We're going to see this part of Taylor. I feel like the house is going to have to fall in love with her. And maybe with the other distractions removed, they will. That's what I'm hoping for. But like, in my opinion, and I don't know, Hannah, what you can, if you disagree, but I think Taylor seems like the type of girl that's going to stand up and dust it off her shoulders. That's what we learn when we do pageants and like move forward, right? Like she just, I just love her as a person. And I think, I don't know her, but you know what I mean? Like watching her and this character who Taylor is. And I just think I would wish I was in the house and I could like give her a hug, but also be her best friend.
No, she seems so strong, so persistent, and like she's going to persevere no matter what. And I was watching live feeds before this. I'm not sure if I can get into this yet, but it does seem like because Jasmine's in power now.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say, we'll spoil it for everybody. Jasmine won the HOH. No. And honestly, that HOH competition, I think it felt like they were going to finish it on the show and then ran out of time because of Jasmine getting hurt and all of the other things that happened. And we'll talk more about that in just a second, but go for it, Hannah. Jasmine's in power. What are you seeing now?
So Jasmine's in power, and I know initially, as soon as she walked in, as was to be expected, she was like, sorry, Taylor, I know you just got off the block, but you're going to find your butt right back on the block. And I was like, huh? Like, Taylor is not coming after you. What would make you think that Taylor should be your target here other than jealousy and insecurity? But thankfully, I think Paloma being the ringleader, because she was so central to the house dynamics, with her being removed from the game, I was so curious to see, like, how is this going to restructure the house alliances? Who's like the most influential force? Who kind of takes a step back now? She was part of pretty much every like major alliance in the house.
Mhm.
So it was almost a blessing that Paloma was removed for Taylor's game specifically. Obviously, I wish she wasn't removed under those circumstances. But I do think that gives Taylor an in, especially with the women in the house and with Paloma no longer influencing the men. Hopefully they start warming up to her as well. And the girls right now, Amira, Brittany, Indy, and Alyssa, part of the Girls Alliance, it does seem like those girls are back on track, and they've all acknowledged that Taylor probably isn't coming after them anytime soon. So they're trying to shift the target from Taylor to Pooch. And that's what's happening in the house right now.
All right. So Pooch now, everybody's got him in their sights. Well,
That would be amazing.
we immediately saw
Sorry,
the guys, and kind of an alliance forming, and they, a couple of players got together and they're like, yeah, and Pooch, you're in this. And then walked away and they went off to the bathroom and like, we got to get rid of Pooch. Like, it was like right away, like, we're cool. We're in an alliance. And then like 2 seconds later, he's totally got to go. What is it about him do you think that they don't like? Because he's a coach. Like, he can bring some gameplay strategy, game day calls into this alliance.
Yeah, I expected him to be a Dan Giesling for that reason. Like, Dan Giesling was, even though Dan was only 24 on his first season, which blows my mind because I'm like right there in terms of age, and I'm nowhere near the player that Dan Giesling was on his first season. But that's besides my point. He came in as a football coach, and I think because of that, he was magnetic. He knew how to interact with people. He knew how to kind of foresee the next couple of weeks and set himself up well. He sort of conceived of the game as a football game, and that's why he excelled. So I was like, okay, is Pooch going to be, the next Dan Giesling? But unfortunately, I think Pooch is more like a Brent from last season. Just to give you a reference, they're both from the East Coast. They're both Italian, but that's not even why I'm comparing them. I just think Brent in our house talked a lot. And for that reason, people didn't trust him. And from what I've heard about Pooch, it seems like he also talks a lot and can't really keep anything in. So how are you supposed to game with someone if you can't trust them?
Yeah.
100%. And he also, I think, he talks too much to the wrong people. So I think he's talking to people that he's not working with. And it seems like maybe he's spoiling things for his own alliance members because of that. So I don't know. I mean, I already was said that I'd rather, if Taylor gets to stay, Taylor stays, and I'm like, yes, go for Pooch. Like, whatever happens.
Literally send anyone else out the door as long as Taylor in the house. But one of the, I thought that this was just a given. You don't say names for the first couple weeks while you're still getting to know people, unless you are able to find that one ride or die. And Pooch has not found that ride or die. So why is he offering up names left and right? Again, all the time. That makes you feel weary, because if Pooch is sitting here telling you, and you're not that close to him, he's telling you, oh, Amira told me this. I now have to censor myself in front of him, because chances are he's going to go to someone else and be like, oh, listen to what Hannah told me. So that makes people feel uneasy. And I thought that was just like a known rule, but maybe Pooch didn't know. I don't know.
He gets too comfortable. That's the problem. When you get too comfortable on Big Brother, you start to just babble. And then when you're babbling, I think that's when you get in trouble. And that's why you make yourself a target.
Yeah, talk less, listen more. Right. That should be Julie's new saying. Instead of expect the unexpected, let's be honest, everything's expected in Big Brother nowadays. To talk less, listen more.
Yeah, and it feels like the lyrics from Hamilton there when Aaron Burr says to Hamilton, talk less, smile more. And that's what you're like, you need to shut your mouth, guy.
Exactly.
Spoiler on how that ends. Okay. So we've got in power Jasmine now. And like you said, Hannah, I can't wait to see how the HOH played out, because she did get hurt. And it sounds like according to some things that we're hearing on the feeds, that they may be calling for production to get her something to help her get around. So we may have that device at Christmas rolled around in the house, and we may have Jasmine's leg up, and we hear the squeaky wheel every time that she rolls through.
Oh my gosh.
Up and down those HOH stairs though? Oh no.
Just cool. I feel like didn't she just sprain her ankle? So I think she'll be okay within like a week or so.
Yeah.
But I said something last night about Taylor's karma casting a halting hex on Justin's ankle because it reminded me of Christmas. And she tripped on air. Like that's what it looked like to me. She was just walking on air, and then for some reason her ankle rolled. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but I hope she's okay.
Yeah, we do hope she's okay. And clearly, if she went on to win that competition at the end, she had to be able to compete in the next round. So it feels like she's better than a break like we saw with Christmas, or a severe strain that can take a long time to heal.
And she's been going up and down the steps too.
Oh, okay.
Right. She's been in her HOH room as far as I read on the feeds. So.
Oh, okay. We can put a boot on her, or some sort of brace. That's great. Okay.
Exactly. I think she'll be okay. It's just simple.
Adding in Joseph to the mix, we got a lot of Florida players here in the Big Brother house, and now that I've lived in Florida here for 13 years, I always look for some of my Florida players to do something, and give them a little love and root for them. Anybody that stands out? Is it Joseph? Is it that Alyssa? Who else? I'm forgetting. Who else is in Florida? It's Nicole, of course, Nicole.
And Pooch?
No, he's Staten Island, isn't he? Or does he live in Florida now?
Yeah, he lives in Florida.
Maybe that's what I'd heard too. Okay. Yeah, no, the Staten Island's claiming him. We're not. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm joking around.
I think Joseph, I really like him. I really like I don't know that I've heard about him on the feeds as much. I don't get to watch the feeds as much. I'm super busy being a mom of two, but I like him. He's a lawyer. He's young. He's fun. I think he's kind of got a showmance with Indy. Is that correct? I mean, that's what I think I read one time.
Oh, Indy's in a relationship.
She is?
That's never stopped the Big Brother player from a showmance. No, it's Come on.
But wait,
this is true. But I heard that he has his eyes set on Alyssa.
Oh, on Alyssa. Okay. Okay. So who had the Indy showmance? But didn't someone say they like Brazilian women or something like that?
Yeah, it seems like Kyle has a fetish. Brazilian women, which is sort of strange to me. But Kyle and Indy, there's such a big age gap that I think oh, you're cute, but run along now. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, so Joseph likes Alyssa?
But I think Monty is also attracted to her. I almost feel like we'll get a showmance between Monty and Alyssa, and then maybe Joseph and Taylor, because it seems like they have pretty good back and forth, or Joseph and Mira, because it seems like they're cool too. So I think those are going to be the showmances. I don't think Daniel's getting into a showmance with.
No, he's not. But isn't he married too? Is that right or no?
No,
he's single, according to his BB bio.
Okay. He's single and single, but I don't know if anyone's ready to mingle with him.
No.
Yeah, 35, single. Mr. Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Is he doing his Elvis impersonation on the feeds? I want to see this.
We haven't seen it, right? Yeah. I don't think so.
I've never seen it. And then I know Turner's single, but I don't really see him getting into a showmance with anyone. Terrence is married. Michael's engaged.
Kyle is looking for a showmance around every corner.
Yeah, Kyle for sure. I feel like Pooch would be open to a showmance, but hopefully he leaves this week. Joe and Monty. Those are the 4 guys that I think will be trying.
Okay. What does Chicago's hottest karaoke DJ need to do to save his game?
Listen, I have never heard of DJ Showtime. He must be lukewarm. He must be the most. Terrence, I'm sorry. I'm very sarcastic and I'm very sassy. I mean no harm at all. What do I think he needs to do for his game? Honestly, I think like if I were in that house, I would align myself with the oldest player, and that person would be Terrence. I aligned myself with the oldest player last season. That was by no mistake. That was very intentional. And I feel like the people who do that, Dan and Jerry, Ian and Boogie, like they tend to go far in the game. So I feel like Terrence should just keep doing what he's doing. He is not seen as a threat. He's seen as a layup. I feel like as long as he lays low, people are going to want to bring him to the end. And I feel like with the oldest house guests, historically, they're either the first booted or they make it to final three, and he's evaded being the first boot. So I think he's doing everything correct. I just need him to maybe venture out a bit more socially and start forming personal connections with some of the younger house guests.
All right.
Like, almost like being the dad figure of the house.
Be that dad.
He does need to do that
role.
Yeah.
And
because if
weren't you the one, Jason, that said the cook, you would cook for everyone too if you went back in?
Oh yeah. And I'm not a great cook, but I can scramble some eggs. I can make you toast. I can do things in the kitchen. You know, I'll cook up ground beef and have taco night. Yeah, I can do some of those things, even warming up leftovers if I've not been the main chef, because on our season, Danielle was the cook, but I was always in the kitchen with her, and you help clean the dishes and you do all those things. And so people sort of go, wait, I don't eat if I get rid of this person. So let's keep them another week. Let's keep them a little longer. So that's why I think Nicole, as a professional chef, like it's golden. Like she's Final Four, right there.
And like with Azza, with Big D, like I was not going to be in the house without them. I was like, if one of us has to leave, I would rather leave first. Otherwise, I know I'm not eating without these two. Yeah. So people don't realize how much like the personal stuff kind of spills into the game. And every little thing that you do matters. Like even as like I would make chai for everyone at night, and then I would make coffee for everyone in the morning. Something as simple as that lets people know doesn't let people miss your presence. Remember, Boogie shared that like very insightful piece of knowledge with Frank on season 14. Don't ever let these people miss your presence, because then they're going to start getting comfortable without you there, and it's going to be easier for them to vote you out. So Jason, I think that's definitely an overlooked strategy. People might be like, oh, you're being a floater, you're being a coaster. Like that's not really game, but it matters in the game. Yeah. That's what I love about Big Brother, because it's literally 24/7. You have to be on. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You leave that bathroom a mess. And we had somebody on our season, and every time, you go in the bathroom, it was just a wreck. And that's a shared toilet space with a dozen or more people. And it's like, come on, you got to clean up after yourself. You can't leave this place a mess. Like, just, hey, flush the toilet. Yeah, right. Those kinds of things start putting little strikes against you in the minds of your house guests. And I think it all adds up. It builds. And after a few weeks, you start going, I can't live with this person anymore. I got to get rid of them.
Yep. Absolutely. People are already looking for a reason to send anyone and everyone home. So don't try to minimize that. Yeah.
All right, good advice for future Big Brother players. Before we wrap this up, because this has been so insightful, and Hannah, we really appreciate you kind of talking a little bit about what you, Tiffany, and Azza spoke about, and we'll put the link to Derek and Cody's podcast. I'm blanked there. Derek and Cody. Sorry, he's a winner too. I don't know why. Yeah, the Winner Circle's a podcast, and we'll link to that and some other helpful links if you're struggling with mental illness, because it is so real, and it's so important that you talk to somebody. Going through tough times in my life, and I mentioned it just a second ago. With going through after a decade of being married and going through divorce and things like that, and having kids, and and feeling like I failed at this one thing that I was supposed to do, and this commitment that I've made, it messes with your head. And so I spent a lot of time in therapy to sort of figure it all out and fix myself to be ready for a new relationship. And, and it's so important to be whole, because it affects everything in your life. It affects me as a parent, to my kids. It affects now in my new relationship with my wife, and, and how we parent, and this blended family that's, like 90 parts chaos, because it's now 3 kids. And We had to get a bigger car, like a normal SUV won't do. You got to get the longer, bigger one. So terrible time to do that in the midst of, these gas prices. But, but I'll tell you, it's all about healing yourself and being healthy and being whole. And so it is such an important thing to do. And so I'm glad that Big Brother is through a really tough episode to watch as viewers, and for those house guests to have to live through this time. It's shining a light on something that's so important, and we can all work on making ourselves better.
But also, I would like to include that with us being empathetic towards Paloma, that doesn't excuse her microaggressive behavior, the bullying, the ostracism displayed towards Taylor. The two are not mutually exclusive. So I would like to acknowledge that as well. And it's important to hold house guests accountable in a productive way, instead of, bashing them nonsensically to the point where they may not learn anything from what you're imparting on them. So that's just something to keep in mind too. And I said it on Tiffany's podcast. I would like to say it now. I support Taylor. I think we all support Taylor. And I just wish her a mentally and emotionally healthy experience in that house, as healthy as it can be when you're playing a game like Big Brother.
Yeah. There's the little caveat on, when you're playing Big Brother, it's already,
it's like
an
asterisk.
Mess. Yeah, the asterisk.
Asterisk. But listen, I have never had that much fun in my life, as traumatic as it was and still is in some ways. I'm so thankful that I got to play. And I hope that when she leaves the house, despite what happened during the first week and what will probably continue to happen, to be quite honest, she can look back at it with fondness and be like, I'm so thankful that I was able to play that game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we're so thankful you joined us today. And we, through the season, want to hear your insight, because it's so good. And it's just been so much fun. As we go, because it's the super fan it out. We've got Michael versus Daniel. Can we just get a quick Daniel here one last time? Because this is so good. Who will win? I mean, Michael doesn't have much hair, but it's, I was like, is it the battle of the hairs, or it's the super fans?
I think it's the battle of the super fans. Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the summer, 3 months from now, we don't know what Michael's hair might look like as it grows out. If nobody's cutting his hair, he may look like Daniel.
Remember in season 18 how Paul had a mohawk situation, and then Paulie all of a sudden morphed into Paul throughout the season. So they were like Paul squared or something. I don't know. They were very tight for a minute there. So who knows? Maybe Michael and Daniel will just morph into one and become a bro or a showman. Who even knows?
It's like the ending of the Superman versus Batman. Spoiler alert here. All of a sudden they team up and work together. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, as a super fan, I would want to work with another super fan, because chances are they probably know more than the rest of these people. So I would rather have them with me instead of against me. I almost want them to come together and form a final two called Justice League, even though I want Daniel out of the game. If Daniel stays, I think that would be cool. Like Superman, Batman, Justice League.
Yes.
Why hasn't that been done before? Put me back in the house with Tip, and that's going to be my final two.
The Justice League. Yes.
Justice League. Yeah, that's cool.
It's brilliant.
Oh my gosh, I'm giving these people too much. Start charging for this podcast.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much. Rachel, thank you.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe here on the YouTube channel and click that button so you'll get the notifications of when we put new episodes out. Have a great one, you guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.